Hey everyone, I'm Jerry James Stone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these delicious cheddar and cornbread waffles with a lovely salted honey whipped cream and a buttered bourbon maple syrup. Let's get cooking. I'm going to show you how to make this delicious recipe, but stay tuned too, because I'm also going to discuss storage tips for a lot of the ingredients that goes into this recipe, because hey, you're buying stuff, you want to know how to store it, how to make it last, how long it lasts, so that's coming too. But the first thing we need to do is prepare our dry ingredients for these waffles. So in a large mixing bowl, or in my case, I'm using a large measuring cup, you want to mix together the flour, the cornmeal, the sugar, the baking powder, and baking soda, and the salt. And just go ahead and whisk that all together so it's all evenly combined. In a smaller measuring cup or bowl, whatever you're using, you now want to whisk together the milk and the eggs. Now, I didn't beat the eggs before adding it to the milk, just to kind of show you that you can do it that way, but you can also just beat them beforehand. That works too. For the next thing that we're going to do, it really helps if the ingredients that you just used are all at room temperature. And by those ingredients, I mean the milk and the eggs. If it's too cold, then we're going to use melted butter. So if you have the milk too cold, the butter will then go into little pieces of like solid butter, which you don't want. So it helps if you have the milk and the eggs at room temperature, but before you do this next step. So go ahead and add in the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and just mix them until they're completely evenly mixed. Now you're going to whisk in the melted butter and fold in the shredded cheese. After it's all completely combined, let the mixture just sit for about 10 minutes. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about storage too. So you're probably going to have some leftover flour and cornmeal. So these ingredients, you want to make sure that once you break the seal on the package that they come in, store them in an airtight container in a dark, cool place. Stored this way, they'll last about a year past the best by date. But if you put them in the freezer, it'll actually last up to 2 years or more past the best by date. For the baking soda and the baking powder that you have in this recipe, so if you're ever wondering if those ingredients are still active and good to use, which is really important, right? Because baking soda and baking powder both help bring a lightness and an airiness to the things that we consume. So you want to make sure that they're active before you use them. So if you're questioning that, a really great way to do that is if you have baking powder, take a teaspoon of baking powder and add it to a cup of hot water. If it bubbles, it's active. With baking soda, take a teaspoon of vinegar and add it to a tablespoon of baking soda, and if it bubbles, it's active. That's how you can tell if those ingredients are still good. As far as the eggs, we're using eggs in this recipe. If you ever want to know if your eggs are fresh, a really easy way to do that is with the water test. So take a tall glass of water, add an egg carefully, drop the egg into the tall glass of water. Now there's a little air pocket in the eggs. If the egg rises up or even floats, as long as it's about the halfway mark of the glass, that egg is probably good. But if that egg rises past the halfway mark, then you definitely want to make sure you just toss that egg. It's no longer good to eat. Those are the storage tips. So some of the ingredients that you're using in this waffle recipe, just so you have them, make sure that they're fresh, make sure that they're stored properly. So if you want to make this recipe more than once, now you know how to store things. So now let's get back to making the waffles. So you want to heat up your waffle iron and bring it up to like about medium high on whatever your waffle iron setting is. And then you're going to take about, well, at least with my waffle iron, it took about 3/4 of a cup of the batter, added it to the waffle iron with a little bit of cooking spray, and then cooked the waffle. It might vary depending on the size of your waffle iron and how heat works with your waffle iron, so you might have to make a little bit of an adjustment, but that's all you have to do to make these delicious cheddar and cornbread waffles. Now we're gonna make the toppings. So on top of these cheddar and cornbread waffles, we're gonna make a delicious salted honey whipped cream. Here's a little pro tip on making whipped cream. It works best if the items that you're using to make it are actually chilled. The reason for that is whipped cream, what causes whipped cream to be whipped cream is air gets trapped between the fat inside the cream. So if that fat is cold, then it's easier to trap the air, which makes it nice and light and fluffy. But if that fat is warm, then it's not as nice and fluffy because it's not trapping the air. So by having the whipping cream chilled and also having the bowl that you're actually mixing it in and the beaters that you're using to whip the cream, having those chilled, will really help lift and make that whipped cream really nice and light and fluffy. So what I like to do is put those items in the fridge for about an hour before I'm gonna make the whipped cream. So just go and add the whipping cream to your chilled bowl, and just starting with the hand mixer. I mean, you can just stand mixer if you're using that too, but I use the hand mixer. Start out on low, and then as that whipping cream starts to kind of get a little bit of a body to it, increase the speed, like up to medium, medium high. And what you want to do is whip that cream till it's about like halfway done. As it starts to kind of get some body, it's a little sludgy. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop, and we're gonna add in the flavoring. So we're gonna add just a pinch of salt. Add in our vanilla extract. We're gonna add in the honey, and then go back to whipping that whipped cream, now with a little bit of a higher speed. So kind of start out around medium and just slowly increase that speed to medium high until the whipping cream comes together. So just continue whipping the whipping cream with the flavors inside on medium, medium high. You wanna whip it until you kind of get medium peaks. So medium peaks are gonna be where there's a peak, but it still kind of softens, right? So you want the whipped cream to have a little bit of firmness to it, but not so whipped that it's actually firm and like buttery. So whipped cream will actually hold for a few days in the fridge if you put it in an airtight container. So if you're gonna be making these waffles and you're gonna be making, you know, breakfast some morning, you can easily make the whipped cream ahead of time. As I always recommend, you wanna use pure vanilla extract. The reason for that is, well, one, it tastes amazing. Also, pure vanilla extract will last indefinitely. So compared to the imitation stuff, which only lasts about 5 years. And when it comes to honey, okay, you might have honey on hand and it might have crystallized. You might wonder, is that bad? It's not. Honey doesn't really spoil. Like there's literally honey that's like 3,000 years old or even older. So honey doesn't spoil. That crystallization is fine. You just want to warm it up so it kind of remelts, but it's still good and safe to eat. Okay, so now we're gonna make our buttered bourbon maple syrup, which is just amazing. It really just pulls together this dish with the cheddar cornbread waffles, that salted honey whipped cream. I mean, this is a decadent meal. You will love it. It's gonna be your next brunch, probably your favorite brunch ever if you make it, trust me. So let's get to making the buttered bourbon maple syrup. Okay, so you wanna add the maple syrup to a small saucepan, and over a medium-high heat, bring the maple syrup to a simmer. But be careful though, because of the consistency of maple syrup, if it starts bubbling too much, it can easily overflow. So make sure you're watching the pot when you do this. But bring it to a low simmer. You're gonna add in your vanilla extract, then you're gonna add in the butter. Bring it back to a simmer and let it cook for just about a minute, and then you have the most delicious maple syrup you've ever tasted. You can also make this ahead of time too, just like the whipped cream. It's a really easy thing to make ahead, and the thing that's great about that is you don't have to do it all in one day. If you do make the buttered bourbon maple syrup ahead of time and put it in the fridge, a layer of butter will kind of form on the top of it. That's totally fine. Once you warm it up, it'll easily mix in and be just as delicious. Storage tip, maple syrup will actually last, like if you haven't opened it, indefinitely. Once you open the maple syrup, it's gonna last about a year, so there's a really good reason to make this recipe over and over and over again to use up all the maple syrup that you purchased. And butter, once you buy that from the grocery store, it lasts about 4 months in the fridge, but if you want your butter to last longer, put it in the freezer. It'll keep for up to a year in the freezer. And then to make these delicious waffles, all you have to do is take the waffles, warm, cheddary cornbread waffles, put a nice dollop of the salted honey whipped cream on top of it, and then just drizzle that buttered bourbon maple syrup over the top, and you will win. If you like this recipe, hey, give me a thumbs up. If there's something that you wanna see, drop a comment down below. And if you like to cook like I do, I release new videos every single week, so please subscribe. See you guys next time. Yeah, you heard me right. So it goes, don't make any noise.